All right, Adam here with Splendid Sports, and we're back for another edition, the 11th edition of 3 and 3. I am so happy to be joined by baseball collector Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm well. That's become my name. Like people just call me baseball collector. They don't just call me Mike, right? It's like my new first name is baseball collector Mike.
Absolutely. And before we get into anything, I need to thank you because I go back January 2021 when I figured out that there was actually people on podcasts and YouTube talking about sports cards and vintage sports cards. I was so happy to find that out. I don't know why I didn't know that earlier, but the first podcast that I ever listened to and then YouTube channel was the Golden Age of Cardboard. When I figured out that you had that show and that show was out there, it really especially during that period of time when I really needed something to watch and listen to as far as content. So I need to thank you for all the incredible content that you've put out. And the other one, Dr. Beckett's podcast, along with yours, were the two that I found first. And I don't think I've missed an episode of either one since then. So again, thank you so much for everything you've done on your channel, Bench Clear Media. You've provided a lot of hours of entertainment, inspiration, and education for me. So thank you.
Those are the three things you try to do every episode: either entertain, inspire, or educate. And hopefully some of all of those occasionally, and if the if the circumstances work out. But you're welcome. And I get that a lot. And I only need one person to think it's great, and then I'll keep doing it. And I'm blessed to have a lot of people that think it's great. And so it's fun. It's just fun. I don't know how else to say it.
And I don't either. Yeah, it's so clear, like from right when I started watching that, you weren't trying to be anybody but yourself. You were just so authentic, and it was so clear that you knew what you were talking about and you loved what you were talking about. And again, that being my first one that I ever listened to, I was blown away. One of my buddies in the hobby, Dylan from Double D, we talk pretty often, and he has said the exact same thing to me, how he found the golden age of cardboard. I think it was a little before I did, but he was like me. We collected in obscurity for so many years. And then when you realize there's other people out there that are out on YouTube and podcasts that think like you do, sometimes differently, but more importantly, have the same passion. It was like a moment I'll never forget, really. So again, thank you. I'll stop kissing your butt here in a minute. But I always said if I ever get a chance to talk to you in person or through something like this, I wanted to thank you first before we say anything.
No, you can do that. We can just do this the whole show. No, I appreciate it. I love seeing that when I hear people that make hobby friends, they didn't have, we don't have anybody to share. It's a very common story. All of us probably have that. We don't have our next door neighbor, or, our friends from high school that might have collected with us, or middle school have long since moved on to other things. And so we're kind of left on an island. And to see that hobby tapestry get woven through connections that people make and finding common ground and things. There are people like Dylan. Dylan's a surfer from Hawaii. He and I would never have any reason to interact ever if not for this hobby. And there are people that I am friends with, genuine, great friends with, that we completely disagree politically, ideologically, but we have a common ground of sports cards. And so we bond over that. And I think if the world said, there's some common ground probably in a lot of places in this world that we don't want to see or refuse to see. Sorry, I'm getting kind of deep, but it's a sad testimony that I can be friends with, again, people on completely polar opposites on pretty much everything else in life. But we talk about those things and we talk about cards, and that common ground is the base for allowing us to have fruitful conversations about other things where we may disagree. Right. So, wow. Sorry. It's a total tangent, but
that's a theme lately. The last one I did 3 and 3 with Jake, Legends Never Die. I started right off with like a deep question. let me ask you that too. Before we get in the cards, I asked him, it kind of just popped in my head. Because I mentioned that doing these 3 and 3s, this will be the 11th one. It's made me a better collector.
Yeah.
Just with the knowledge, the experience, being able to talk with other collectors. And I asked Jake, I said, well, what does becoming a better collector mean to you? So let me ask you, what do you think?
God, can I just hijack his answer because it was really good?
Yep.
Being better at anything takes time and repetitiveness, right? If you want to be a good guitar player, you don't just show up. You may have some natural talent, no doubt, right? But to be a great baseball player or pick an activity, pick a skill, it takes time to hone that skill. And I think all too often everybody, especially I'm going to sound like such an old man, but my kids who are in their early 20s, you know, they want everything that we have now. Like, I want the big house, I want the fancy car, whatever, right? And they don't realize it took me 30 years to get here. It took my parents 30, 40 years to get where they got in life. And I think there's this entitlement mentality. So to become a better collector, you take your lumps. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time. It's not going to all, you're not going to have the greatest collection tomorrow, right? Barring winning the lottery. You might have the greatest collection for you. And that's the other thing. Have a great collection for you. What's your great? When Dr. Beckett came over to my house and he came here, it was one of the thrills of my life, because as people might look at some of the content creators like myself or Eric or guys that have been Blue Jacket 66, these guys that have been around a long time and have amazing collections, and they go, wow, I want to be that. I look at Dr. Beckett and go, wow, he is like a hobby idol for me. And so for him to come here, and now we're friends, so the dynamic changes once it's not looking at them from afar. You know them, and you've gotten to talk to them and have great conversations. He's a great guy, by the way, and very humble and incredibly knowledgeable. I just sit there like a sponge, just soaking it up. Yeah. And he teaches me a lot of stuff. I've had him on the show several times, and we talk way more often than that. And so I'm watching what he does, and like, okay, he's done it all, right? So learning patience, have patience to become a better collector, be patient, and make friends, have people you can share it with. If it all just sits in a dark hole, that's no fun for anybody, even you, because you only have yourself. If you're not sharing it, that's what, people, I don't want to get on YouTube because I'm shy. I don't have good stuff. Whatever lame reason they can, because they're all lame, whatever they come up with. I don't want to show my face. Now, there are a couple of guys that are good friends of mine, Andrew being Enough Said Cards. He has a legitimate reason for not showing his face. Everybody else, like, get out there, man. Just put yourself out there. You need 4 quarters, not 100 pennies, right? You don't need tons of people watching you with no interaction, no real connection being made there. You'd rather have a few people that you connect with. And so I've been able to encourage a lot of guys over the years to just jump out there. And some of them, they really enjoy YouTube and the community. They all love the community. Nobody's come, what a bunch of jerks, and I hate these people. No, nobody says that, right? They come in and go, wow, it totally changes the way you hobby. Because I've bought stuff over the years that I've seen someone else show off. I didn't even know I liked that. I didn't even know that was out there. And then I'm like into this rabbit hole and down Pandora's box of, wow, this is so great. And it changes my collecting. And so be open-minded. That's another good thing about being how to be a better collector. Be open-minded. Sorry, that's enough of that. That's plenty of an answer there.
No, I mean, that was very well said. But let's get into the cards.
Okay, let's talk cards. Okay.
Because I know if it was up to me, I would just keep you all day. But for the purpose of keeping this video not too long, so if this happens to be the first time you've seen a 3 and 3, people watching, what we do is we look at 3. First, we're going to look at 3 of Mike's favorite cards in his collection. Doesn't have to be the most valuable, but 3 of his favorite, and he's going to tell us why. And then we're going to look at 3 cards that he hopes to add to his collection in the future. So if you're ready, would love to see card number 1, Mike.
3 of my favorite. So when you told me that, and obviously I've seen the show, I know what to do, and I'm like, I can't find just 3. Like seriously. But I did. But each of them has a story and a purpose. So the first one is this 1960 Topps Carl Yastrzemski rookie PSA 3. Notice the old flip, because I got this graded a long time ago. The serial number starts with a, I can't read, I'm so old, with a 2. What does that tell you? But this was the very first vintage card I ever bought in my life. And I was 12 or 13 years old, and a friend down the street had it. I don't know where he had gotten it, whatever, from his dad or whatever. And I ended up buying it from him for what amounted to, a fortune back then. And I've always had it. And I graded it just to grade it, not because I cared what the grade was. I just want it encapsulated and protected. And this got me down the road of vintage. And I always loved old stuff. Maybe I have an old soul. I love the history of the game. Maybe I'm just a kind of like Jake, right? You don't have to be old to love old stuff. I don't think those are correlated. And so, like, I never saw Yastrzemski in his rookie year. I saw him play the latter part of his career, but just knew it was a rookie card. Just thought it was cool design. Always loved 60 Topps, and like, oh my gosh, I can own this card. And so I have a 6 also in my collection, just as part of my collection. But this one will never leave. It's like the last card I would ever sell is this. Second one I'll show started me on another venture. Is this one right here, 1954 Bowman, Phil Rizzuto, and my camera's not focusing, but it's autographed. And I sent this in way more recently because, again, I wanted it encapsulated, and I had no problems about the autograph being authentic because my dad got it for me at a game. He worked for the Rangers for television camera guy back from the very beginning of that. I've actually interviewed my dad on my show a couple of times, and he does my intro on Golden Age of Cardboard. It's really him. It's really my dad. And I don't have a bigger fan than my dad. He watches every video. He could give 2 shakes about sports cards, but he loves my passion. He has the same passion for collecting, only it's with tools. And so we've combined those 2 and made, the Beast, or just different things. But he just loves seeing his son enjoy something like I do, and how much I love it, and how much I've thrown myself into it. You can really tell someone's passion. You can see it. Like, it's not easy or it's hard to fake that passion. You can maybe get away with it for a little while, but it's either there or it's not. And so my dad got this card for me, walked into a shop somewhere and picked up this because he knew he was working with the Yankees that night. And Phil Rizzuto was an analyst for them on television. And he got Phil to sign this card, Phil Rizzuto. And I've had it for 30 years, probably, at least, probably longer, actually 35 years. And I don't know. And then I had this and several other things my dad had gotten. I'm going to show one in a second. A Killebrew autograph, a couple of Reggie Jacksons and stuff. And so I was like, I love this. I love having a card that a player signed and touched and all of that kind of stuff. Even back when having a player sign a 54 Bowman card was tantamount to ruining the card, right? That's completely turned 180 in the hobby of how they feel about autographed cards now. Now it's like incredibly sought after. So this is treasure for me because my dad did it for me, knowing he didn't really care about cards, but he thought I would like it, which I do, obviously. I still have it all these years later. But the piece de resistance of my collection, the thing that is the most special to me, the thing I love the most, is a baseball, believe it or not. And I don't collect autographed baseballs, but I have a bunch. And one that I have is this one. My dad, over the years, as he would, do baseball games, would have players that he knew were like, oh, is that guy a Hall of Famer? Yep, I'll have him sign it. And on the sweet spot is Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
This, and it is definitely like when I've had this so long, caring for it was definitely not a priority for me. And so I've, the M's are kind of rubbed off, but it's got great announcers, Ernie Harwell and Mel Allen on one of the panels. On another one is Don Drysdale and Phil Rizzuto. So it's funny, you see a lot of common things here. Over here is George Kell, Al Kaline, and Brooks Robinson. Then you've got Killebrew, Reggie, and Nolan Ryan. So it's this. It's the best way to describe it. It's like it's my dad's career in sports on a baseball, if that makes any sense. And how much value is it? I don't know. Probably nothing to anyone else. I mean, it's got some good autographs on it, but it's not like they're pristine. There's toning on the ball. It's in a very dark place now, but I don't store it in the light. But it's seen, again, I've had this. My dad carried it around for years, like literally in a Ziploc bag, and he would just have other guys add to it. And I think once I graduated from high school or something, he gave it to me and said, hey, I've been collecting this over the years. I mean, it's a Bobby Brown American League ball. So that's been a while. Bobby Brown just died actually, but this year. So it's that's my most special thing in my collection. And notice they all have connections to something personal, right? And that's what this hobby can do that very few things can do, right? It all evokes memories. It all evokes happy feelings and simpler times in life.
But I was gonna. It's funny you showed those because regardless of what you were gonna show, one of the things I was gonna mention is, I think one of, if not the favorite episode I've ever seen you do was when you had your dad on. I don't know if you had him on multiple times, but the most recent one when you interviewed your dad, that was incredible. I mean, I'm actually going to put a link in the description if I'm sure most people have seen it, but if there's anyone who hasn't watched that one, it was so. I mean, I'll be honest. I got choked up at the end. I really did.
So did I. If you could tell, you can listen to me. I was pretty choked up, just because it just felt like, okay, I can call my dad right now, talk to him whenever I want, but that won't be true forever. And whether I go first or he goes first, and it was kind of this like, whoa, it just kind of really hit me. Like, we're talking about all this stuff that I vividly remember and loved. I had a great childhood, and I got spanked as a kid. Like, there's just, you think about being a parent now and how different it is to being a parent in the 70s and 80s. And I had a great dad, great mom, great brother and sister. Like, no worries, no complaints.
Well, what you just showed, those items, when I thought of 3 and 3, that was like exactly what I was thinking, as far as like, because it has nothing to do with like the value or anything like that. It can be, it can be that could be a reason why it's one of your favorite cards, but stuff like that where it really doesn't have anything to do with money or the value. It's just what it means to you, and it's connected to your family, and and as a kid. So that was beautiful, perfect. Let me pull up. So the next part here, we're going to look at, Mike sent me a list of 3 items that he hopes to add to his incredible collection. I think I've seen maybe the ones you showed. I don't ever think I've seen that ball before. You've probably shown it, but I've never seen that one. I've seen so many of his videos. I wonder if he's going to show 3 things I've already seen anyway, but I don't think I've seen those on your videos.
You have to go deep. I think it was one of the 3rd or 4th video I did. It's just called The Ball.
Okay.
And I talked through the story in a little bit greater detail than I just did. It's terrible. It's grainy. It's like, it was, I mean, nah, don't go watch that. Just, it's so old. like if you can sort people's videos by age, right?
Yeah.
Not just, you can do popularity and recently downloaded or whatever. And if you go to the very end, 980 something videos down the list, it's there. I promise. I should probably redo. I've thought about redoing, because nobody goes back and watches, right? I could literally just recycle. I can just start at video number 1 and do them all again over the next 9 years, since I started 9 years ago, and then I'd have a whole new audience that hasn't
That's
seen
true.
it. Yeah.
You're right. All right, so let's go with the first one. This was I got, you can see up on the screen here, the 1953 Bowman Color Gil Hodges. This was just one that recently sold back in September. Looks like a PSA 6.
I was watching that one.
You were? Okay.
Was.
Love this set. Love that image. Why, obviously, because it's a great car, but why is this one that you'd want to add to your collection?
So I do all the Hall of Famer runs for different years, as anybody that's watched my stuff knows. This one is the last. Once these guys get, new guys get elected to the Hall of Fame, I actually go, yes, more cards I get to buy. And as a completionist, this is a great card too. Minoso has a card in this set. It is fantastic as well. The big bat, it's a great card. But I have that one. This one, it's the last one I need. So it's kind of up there. Like when you get close to finishing a run, it's like, ooh, I'm just going to push myself. I want to get that one done, versus one where you maybe need 10 or 12 or 15 cards. I'm more apt to go for the ones where I'm super close. Like this is it. And it's a great card. So, and not crazy expensive.
Right. All right. So let's go. The second one is 1941 play ball Pee Wee Reese. Pull that up. Let's pull this one up. This one it's only an SGC 1, kind of not the best condition, but nicely, pretty good centering there. But yeah, this one just sold last month. Pretty. This card's a little pricey.
It is in the grade I'm going to want it in.
Yep.
Like if you look at like a PSA 4, kind of a collector grade.
How about a well, let's do
SGC4.
SGC4. There we go.
Yeah.
Give a little better look at that. There we go.
I love his image. Like he looks like he's got these buck teeth,
Yeah.
And 41 play ball. I actually prefer the 40 play balls, believe it or not, because they're actual pictures versus artist rendering of a picture or interpretation. And the 41s are the same as the 40s. They're just colored versions for all the players that have both 40 and 41 play balls, DiMaggio, Williams, big guys like that. But this is Pee Wee Reese's rookie card, and it's his first card. So I don't know. I just it's one of those Hall of Fame rookies that I don't have and want to add it. It's just that simple. And it's the most affordable one of the ones that I need. And it's not even cheap. I mean, we're talking $700 to $900 probably for the card that I would want in my collection. And so it's not cheap, but it's not multiple thousands like some other cards that I want. So
Right.
That's why I put this one on the list, because I think it's kind of the next one I can really get that's kind of lower hanging fruit.
And speaking of Pee Wee Reese, I have to credit you. I think it was one of the first videos I ever caught when I started watching your channel. When you were talking about the 53 Bowman Color Pee Wee Reese, and how you just think that is one of the greatest looking cards ever. And I completely agreed. For some reason, I never caught that card before. Like, I obviously knew of the set. I had cards from the set. I had other Pee Wee Reese cards, but like you talk about inspiring, that was like something where it was like totally clicked with me. Like, man, he's so right. I can't believe I don't have that one. And so
do you have one now?
I do. I don't have it with me here, but yes, I did. I bought it was about 6 months ago, I think. I got a PSA 4 with like great centering, but it's got a little line on it, but it doesn't seem to bother me. So got a pretty good deal on it. So I was very happy to get that one.
Yeah, that's a card. If I could go back And I don't say this very often, but if I could go back and, eat it and buy a better copy, mine's fine. It's I think a 3. Um, but it's also one that I wouldn't, if I found one for the right price, I would buy multiple copies of it. And I don't say that often ever, because I do think it's the best card ever created. There are critics of that card that, oh, it's a staged photo. Of course it is. Like, yes, but just enjoy it for what it is. Like, don't try to read too much into it, or just, it's a great card. Like one of the first action shots, right? I mean, it's classic.
Now, this last one, I don't have to show an image because I do actually have this one.
Okay.
This is the 49 Leaf Stan Musial.
Don't call it 48. Oh, I need that. I need that copy right there. Like, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite cards, one of my best cards. Like when I got this one, I kind of threw centering away. It was like I wasn't really, it's okay centering, but these colors are like unbelievable. Like I can't believe this card's this old and the cards pop. I mean, the colors pop this, like they're that vivid.
I would
So
take that card in my collection all day.
yeah,
All day.
one of my favorite players, one of my favorite cards. And I think there's been multiple people that when I've done these 3 and 3s, Dylan was one, I believe, that was on their list too. I mean, it's just an awesome card.
It's weird I don't have one, honestly. I would have thought I would have already picked one up throughout the years, but the reality is it just always felt like I'll get one later. They're everywhere. They're actually not uncommon. I see them at every show, but just never did. And now it's like, okay, time to, get off the pot here and get one. So it's definitely on my radar. I was gonna get that card at the National this year. That was totally like that was what I was going to target. And I try not to target a lot at shows, because then you only set yourself up for disappointment. I just go with, let's see what's there and what fits in the budget. And then Dave actually talked me out of it. He's like, no, you can get that card whenever you want. You need to go get a 49 Bowman Satchel Paige. And I'm like, dude, I can't, like, that'll blow most of my budget on one card, And he's like, just be patient. Just, because Dave couldn't be at the National this year, but he was living vicariously through all of us. And we were talking with him every day and FaceTiming with him and all kinds of stuff because he couldn't be there. And ultimately I did get the Satch rookie 49 Bowman. And I'm glad I did. I can pick up a Stan maybe at the Dallas show in a couple of weeks. Who knows? But I'm glad I made that decision, but I'm still itching for that Musial to get in my collection.
Yeah, this was like early 2021 when I was kind of waking up from, just kind of being in my own bubble of collecting cards. And when I realized what prices were doing at that time, I also collect basketball and football along with baseball. So I had a Larry Bird 1981 PSA 10 that I purchased years back for it was still a big purchase. It was like $700-800. So, but when I found out what it was going for at that time period, it was hard to sell it. I had never sold a card. This is the first card I ever sold in my life. I put it up and sold it. And I've mentioned the price before. I don't talk prices a ton, but it sold for $28,000. And this was a card a couple years before, maybe a year before. It was in the it was $1,000 card. So I was just like, I got to sell a card because I don't know what's going to happen after this period. And what I did, I'm very happy I did that, is I said, I'm going to create a fund. I'm going to create all the profit. I'm going to put it in an account, and I'm just going to go out and buy many of the vintage baseball cards that I've always wanted. And this was one of them. So I was able to turn that one card into a lot of different cards that I love. So that is one thing. I made some mistakes, but that was one thing I was very happy that I did, looking back, for sure.
If you haven't heard this mantra, it's collect 9s, sell 10s, like meaning 10s, especially for anything before 2005, is kind of irrelevant. I mean, I have a 10 Trout rookie, for example, but I could have a 9 and be just as happy. I was only able to do that because it was easy to do. But it's sell 10s, buy, collect 9s. And that just means lower grades, buy 4s of 10 cards and sell the 110 you got and pay for all of them, because it's about having the card, not the number on the flip. So have a great example. And that mutual is gorgeous. You did very well, sir. Very well. Very
Well, I
good.
appreciate that. Mike, before I let you go, I like to, at the end of these, throw it out there that if you have another YouTube channel or anybody that you would recommend that and you think they want to do a 3-and-3 with me, I would love to hear it.
Have you done it with Eric yet? Those back
pages?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Well, he would be a recommendation, because I think you should get, you're mixing. You have a lot of great guys that are younger. I say younger in the hobby, let's say, right? But I think it's good to mix it up between newer guys into the community and getting them into the community, and that's great. I love that you do that. Absolutely. But it's okay to have us old farts on every once in a while too. The guys.
I would love to. No, trust me. I am actually somebody who I always gravitate towards people with experience. Even any jobs I've ever been in when I first started, I always try to learn from the people who've been doing that job the longest, or even in a hobby. So I completely agree. I definitely, that would be an awesome one, and I will reach out because I think we're connected on Twitter, I believe. So I can easily reach out to him right through there.
He is a Twitter crazy dude, so you could totally get him there. If you need his number, I got it. I promise.
All right.
I'll help you out. But thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Mike, this was an honor. So nice to talk to you after. I feel like I knew you, but now I actually do know you. So this is great.
You do. Yes, absolutely. This has been great. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. It's fantastic.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome.